Good morning students, welcome to my online class. My today's class is for the students of class 11 and 12. In my today's class, my dear students, I am going to discuss a topic from your English first paper. And this is going to be my second class on this paper. And in my today's class, my dear students, I will read from your textbook, and this textbook is prescribed by the board for our English first paper. And as you can see on the board, my today's topic is taken from Unit 1, Lesson 1. Just take a look at the title of Unit 1. People or institutions making history. From this title, you can easily guess. In this unit, you are going to read about some famous personalities. And if you look at lesson number 1, what is the title of lesson number 1? The Unforgettable History. Dear students, in my today's class, actually I am going to talk about lesson number 1, that is Unforgettable History. But before reading the text, I would like to tell you something about this history. Actually, the history refers to the historic speech of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who delivered the speech on 7 March 1971. In fact, this history is closely related to the history of our independence. My dear students, actually, Unit 1, Lesson 1 is telling us something that is related to the history of War of Independence. Dear students, during the last century, the whole world witnessed the rise of some great political leaders, under whose leadership many states became independent, and Bangladesh is one of them. And if I ask you who was the leader in the War of Independence in Bangladesh, and the answer is very clear cut. It is none but Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who led the entire nation to the way of independence. And in the history of our independence, the date 7 March 1971 is a red letter day. In fact, on this day, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who is called the father of the nation, delivered a historic speech at Ramna Racecourse in front of over 2 million people. And in this speech, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman gave a detailed history of injustice of West Pakistani rulers that was imposed on the people of the East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. And in this speech, Bangabandhu also mentioned all types of sacrifice that we made during the period. And he also highlighted how Pakistani rulers cheated us. And in this speech, once again, Bangabandhu called upon the people for all-out resistance on the part of the people of East Pakistan. And actually, he mentioned the question of independence was inevitable. And in this speech of 7 March, Bangabandhu actually mentioned struggle this time is struggle for freedom. Struggle this time is struggle for emancipation. With this speech, the War of Independence actually began. And my dear students, Bangabandhu's 7 March speech was a source of immense inspiration for the people of Bangladesh. Being motivated by this speech, they got prepared to take part in the war of independence, and they were motivated to such an extent that they were ready to sacrifice the last drop of their blood. And my dear students, actually, this historic speech is not only a source of inspiration for the people of Bengal, but it is a source of limitless inspiration for all the destitute all across the globe. And we do believe the historic speech of Bangabandhu will inspire our successive generations. And today, in my today's class, my dear students, I will read this historic speech from your text, and it is included in our syllabus, and I am going to read the historic speech of Bangabandhu, which he delivered on 7 March 1971, and we will read it in translation. And this speech is translated into English by an eminent scholar and educationist, a famous professor in English literature from Dhaka University, Dr. Fakrul Alam. So, dear students, let's move to the text now.
Dear students, now I am going to read the text, The Unforgettable History. And here in this page, you can see the memorable picture, the scene at Romna Racecourse on 7 March 1971, when Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was delivering his historic speech in front of over 2 million people. And now I will read the text, but before that, my dear students, let's do some warm-up activity. That means let's get prepared for reading the text. And as warm-up activities, you will see some questions here. First of all, we will read the questions and then try to answer them. First question, what do you know about Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman? Dear students, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman is the father of our nation, and he is the greatest leader of our war of independence. He led the entire nation to the harbor of independence. Where is he giving the speech? Dear students, Bangabandhu delivered the speech at Romna Racecourse, and what was the time? It was 7 March 1971. What is the significance of the speech? The significance of the speech of 7 March 1971 by Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was great. Being motivated by this speech, the people of all classes of East Pakistan joined the war of independence, and they were motivated to such an extent that they were ready to sacrifice the last drop of their blood. And after a 9-month war, 9-month bloody war, they achieved independence, and that is the great significance of the speech of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And at present, my dear students, this great speech is a source of inspiration for all the downtrodden people, all the people who are deprived of their due rights. And I think this historic speech will act as a source of limitless inspiration for our coming generations. From this point of view, the significance of this speech is really very great. Have you ever heard the speech? Obviously, we have heard this speech a lot of times. And where have we heard this speech? Everywhere in Bangladesh and in different media. So, dear students, these are the warm-up questions that we have discussed. And now, straightly, I will go to read the text. That means the speech of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Let's start the speech. My brothers, I stand before you today with a heart overflowing with grief. And this is the starting of Bangabandhu's historic speech. And at the very beginning, Bangabandhu is addressing the crowd as my brothers. And this kind of address suggests Bangabandhu's close relation with his countrymen. He is addressing the countrymen as his brothers. It shows what kind of affinity existed between Bangabandhu and the countrymen. I stand before you today with a heart overflowing with grief. That means Bangabandhu is telling the crowd that he is not well. He is not happy. Rather, he is sick at heart. His heart is actually overflowing with grief, overflowing with pains. And why Bangabandhu was so sorry, why he was so unhappy, he will obviously describe the cause of his being unhappy. You are fully aware of the events that are going on and understand their import. Here in this line, Bangabandhu tells the crowd that um, the crowd or the countrymen must be conscious of all the happenings that are going on, and they must realize the significance of all these happenings. We have been trying to do our best to cope with the situation that was going on in Pakistan. And the people of East Pakistan tried their best to adjust themselves with the ongoing situation. And yet, unfortunately, the streets of Dhaka, Chittagong, Khulna, Rajshahi, and Rangpur are awash with the blood of our brothers. Bangabandhu is reporting to the crowd. Though the people of Bangladesh were trying to cope with the situation, yet something mm, unpleasant was happening again and again. And repeatedly, the streets of different cities of Bangladesh were tainted with the blood of the countrymen. That is very painful for Bangabandhu. The people of Bengal now want to be free. The people of Bengal now want to live, and the people of Bengal now want their rights. Very significant line. And in this line, Bangabandhu uh, has mentioned the ultimate desire of the people of uh, East Pakistan. That means they want to be free, they want to live a free life, and, obviously they want to have their own rights, their due rights. And that is the ultimate demand of the people of East Pakistan. And Bangabandhu is mentioning this demand in his speech at the very outset, obviously, at the very beginning of his speech. What have we done that was wrong? Bangabandhu is asking the crowd, what was our fault? After the elections, the people of Bangladesh voted as one for me for the Awami League. Bangabandhu here is referring to the elections of 1970, in which Awami League or the party of Bangabandhu got absolute majority. They won the um, election of 1970. And as a result, as they were the victors in that election, they were supposed to form government. That is why Bangabandhu is telling the crowd, we were to sit in the National Assembly, draft a constitution for ourselves there, and build our country. So, as we won the elections in 1970, so we were to sit in the National Assembly. We should go there and draft a constitution, make a constitutions for the people of East Pakistan, and obviously they had the responsibility to build the country. The people of this land would thereby get economic, political, and cultural freedom. That means after winning the election in 1970, the people of East Bengal dreamed that this time they would get freedom. They would get economic, political, and cultural freedom. But it is with regret that I have to report to you today that we have passed through 23 tragic years. Dear students, notice Bangabandhu's party won the elections in 1970, and consequently they were supposed to form the government. And uh, by this way, the people of East Pakistan should have gained all kinds of freedom, economic, political, or cultural. But very unfortunately, the scenario is just the opposite. 23 tragic years in the language of Bangabandhu. The people of East Pakistan passed 23 years under the rule of the Pakistani rulers, and how they passed these 23 years. According to Bangabandhu, the history of those 23 years was very tragic. Bengal's history of those years is full of stories of torture inflicted on our people, of bloodshed by them repeatedly. Bangabandhu uh, uh, is mentioning that the tragic histories of those uh, 23 years were full of torture inflicted on the peace-loving people of East Pakistan, and they had to shed blood again and again to meet their demand. 23 years of history of men and women in agony. He also uh, told the crowd that during these 23 years, every man and woman of East Pakistan passed their times in great agony. They had to suffer a lot during these 23 years under the rule of the Pakistan. So, in this line, Bangabandhu is giving a very tragic account of the people of East Pakistan under the uh, rule of the Pakistani rulers. The history of Bengal is the history of a people who have repeatedly made their highways crimson with their blood. Very tragic line, my dear students. Notice what was the fate of the people of East Pakistan. And Bangabandhu has mentioned the tragic fate, tragic blood of the peace-loving people of East Pakistan very um, uh, beautifully here in this line. The history of Bengal is the history of a people who have repeatedly made their highways crimson with their blood. That means the people of Bengal shed their blood again and again um, to establish their due rights, to establish their demands. We shed blood in 1952. Even though we were the victors in the elections of 1954, we could not form a government then. So, dear students, here Bangabandhu is referring to two different events in the history. First of all, the historic language movement in 1952, and then the elections that took place in 1954. And every time the Pakistani rulers were acting just against the interest of the people of East Pakistan. In 1958, Ayub Khan declared martial law to enslave us for the next 10 years. That means Ayub Khan, the Pakistani ruler, was very cruel. He was cruel enough to impose martial law only to enslave the people of East Pakistan. In 1966, when we launched the 6 Point Movement, our boys were shot dead on 7 June. in 1966 when Bangabandhu declared six-point movement. Even then, the peace-loving people of East Pakistan were shot dead. When, after the movement of 1969, Ayub Khan fell from power, after the movement of 1969, after the mass movement of 1969, Ayub Khan fell from power, and Yahya Khan assumed the reins of the government. After Ayub Khan, Yahya Khan came to the power, and after um, coming to the power, Yahya Khan declared that he would give us a constitution and restore democracy. So when Yahya Khan came to the power, he uh, declared that, or he made a promise to the people of East Pakistan that he would give them a constitution and he would also restore democracy. We listened to him then. That means when Yahya Khan made such promises, the people of Bangladesh or the people of then East Pakistan kept faith on President Yahya Khan. A lot has happened since elections have taken place, and after making such kind of promises, there are lots of events took place. Even elections was held, but ultimately, what was the outcome? Let's see. I have met President Yahya Khan. I have made a request to him, not only on behalf of Bengal, but also as the leader of the party, which has the majority in Pakistan. Bangabandhu is reporting to the crowd that he met President Yahya Khan, and he also made a request to the president as the leader of the major party of Pakistan. You must hold the session of the National Assembly on 15 January. That was the request that Bangabandhu made to the president, but he did not listen to me. He listened to Mr. Bhutto instead. The request uh, made by Bangabandhu to the president was ultimately turned down. President Yahya Khan did not accept Bangabandhu's request. Rather, he paid heed to the words of Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. At first, he said that the meeting would take place in the first week of March. That was the proposal of President Yahya Khan. He decided the uh, meeting in National Assembly would take place in the first week of March. We said, fine, we will be taking our seats in the assembly then. So when such kind of proposal came from the President Yahya Khan, Bangabandhu agreed, and he agreed that he or his party will take seats in the National Assembly. He said he will carry out our discussions. Uh, I said we will carry out our discussions in the assembly. I went so far as to say that if anyone came up with an offer that was just, even though we were in the majority, we would agree to that offer. So, dear students, Bangabandhu is reporting every detail what was happening between East Pakistan and the um, West Pakistan. What was happening between Bangabandhu and his counterparts, that means the Pakistani President Yahya Khan. He is reporting every detail of those happenings to the crowd. And in this process, he said, I went so far as to say that if anyone came up with an offer that was just, that means if any proposal is made that is just, we will accept it. That means Bangabandhu will accept it. From this point, it is very clear that Bangabandhu had the mentality to accept any proposal that should be just. Even he was the leader of the uh, majority of the people in Pakistan. Even he had the attitude to accept all kinds of proposal that should be made justly. Now come to the next para. Mr. Bhutto came here. He carried out discussions with us. You know, dear student, Mr. Bhutto was the leader of the Pakistan People's Party, and his full name is Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Mr. Bhutto came here. He carried out discussions with us. He had said that the doors of negotiations had not been shut and that there would be further negotiations. So, this is a kind of uh, expectation that Bhutto said the doors of negotiations had not been shut and there is possibility of further discussion. I then had talks with other leaders. When Mr. Bhutto uttered such kinds of words, then Bangabandhu talked with other leaders. I said to them, come and sit down with us. Let's create a constitution for ourselves through discussions. That is the proposal that Bangabandhu made to other leaders. But Mr. Bhutto declared that if West Pakistani members came here, the assembly would end up as a slaughterhouse. So, when Bangabandhu made a proposal of a meeting where they will create a constitution through discussion, then Mr. Bhutto acted otherwise. He uh, declared that it is not safe for the members of the West Pakistan to join the assembly uh, in East Pakistan, and if they do so, the assembly would turn into a slaughterhouse. That is very much disappointing to the people of East Pakistan and also for Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He claimed that whoever came here would be slaughtered. That was the uh, fear of uh, Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. He feared that if any parliamentarian uh, come to uh, East Pakistan to join the National Assembly, then he would be killed. He said that if anyone showed up here, all shops from Peshawar to Karachi would be shut down. So this kind of mentality of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto shows that there is not any possibility of negotiations between these uh, leaders. That means between the leaders of the West Pakistan and the leaders of East Pakistan. I declared that. That means when Mr. Bhutto uh, showed his reluctance in joining the National Assembly, Bangabandhu declared. I declared that the assembly would continue to meet, but suddenly on the 1st of March, the assembly was shut down. Mr. Yahya Khan called the session of the assembly in his capacity as the president, and I declared I would be attending it. So, when President Yahya Khan called the session of the assembly, Bangabandhu instantly agreed to participate in this assembly. Mr. Bhutto said he would not be part of it. On the other hand, when Bangabandhu agreed to join the assembly, on the other hand, Mr. Bhutto disagreed. He said that he would not be a part of it. 35 members of the assembly came from West Pakistan to take part in its proceedings, but it was dissolved all of a sudden. To attend the assembly, 35 members from West Pakistan came here, but all on a sudden, the assembly was dissolved, and the blame was put on the people of Bengal. The finger was pointed at me. So, when the assembly was dissolved, uh, all the blame was given to the people of Bangladesh or the East Pakistan, and even Bangabandhu himself was held responsible for such kind of result. So, dear students, from this discussion, that means up to this point of Bangabandhu's speech, it is very clear to us that the Pakistani rulers uh, did not have any intention to give justice to the people of uh, East Pakistan. And this is the point Bangabandhu is sharing with the crowd uh, on 7 March 1971. Let's move forward, dear students. After the assembly session was prorogued, the people of this country protested. So, when assembly was dissolved, the people of East Pakistan could not accept such kind of decision. That is why they protested. And I told them, observe the general strike we have called peacefully. I told them, shut down all mills and factories. Our people responded to my call. They came to the streets spontaneously. They expressed their firm determination to carry out the struggle peacefully. So, when the assembly's proceedings were postponed or stopped, Bangabandhu called for a general strike, and people of all classes uh, joined or responded to the call of Bangabandhu, and they observed the general strike peacefully. But what have we got in return? That is the very inevitable question made by Bangabandhu. We observed the general strike peacefully, but in return, what have we got? Those who brought arms with our money to defend us from external enemies are now using those arms on the poor, the wretched, the downtrodden people of the land. The people of East Pakistan, obviously, they are paying taxes to the government, and with their money, um, arms are being bought for the armed forces. And very unfortunately, these arms are being used against these wretched or downtrodden people of East Bengal. They are being killed indiscriminately, they are being shot dead. Bullets are being aimed at their hearts. We constitute the majority in Pakistan, but whenever we Bengalis have tried to assume power, they have used force on us. Very much disappointing. It is uh, not acceptable, though uh, we, the Bengalis, are the majority in Pakistan, and we won the election in 1970. Even we are not given power, and whenever we, the Bengalis, tried to take over power, they, that means the Pakistani rulers, used force upon us. They uh, tried to suppress and oppress us at any cost in different ways. That is very disappointing and very unfortunate. I have had a talk with Mr. Yahya Khan. I told him, Mr. Yahya, you are the president of Pakistan. Come and observe how the poor people of my country are being mowed down with bullets. Come and see how our mothers are being deprived of their children, how my people are being massacred. Come, observe, and only then pass a judgment on what is going on. So, dear students, notice here Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman is making an appeal to the President of Pakistan, Mr. Yahya Khan, and he is uh, telling him that the people of uh, East Pakistan, the peace-loving people of East Pakistan, are being killed, are being shot dead indiscriminately, and he also uh, he also goes on to say that the children of our mothers are being killed and people are being massacred, and uh, as the president of Pakistan, he should look into the matter, and he should uh, investigate into the matter, and then after proper investigation he should make a judgment. He has apparently said that I had agreed to attend a roundtable conference on 10th of March. Didn't I say a long time back? What is the point of another roundtable conference? That means President Yahya Khan is planning of a roundtable conference. But now Bangabandhu uh, raises a question: what is the point of another roundtable conference? There were lots of roundtable conferences, but ultimately the result was a big zero. So there is no point of arranging other any more roundtable conference. Who will I sit with? And if you, the president, if you want to make a roundtable conference, then who will I sit with? Should I sit with those who have shed the blood of my people? He, he has suddenly dissolved the assembly without carrying out any discussions with me. After sitting in a secret meeting for 5 hours, he gave a speech where he has put all the blame on me. He has even blamed the Bengali people. So, though President Yahya Khan planned to arrange a roundtable conference, but all of a sudden he dissolved the assembly. And um, after dissolving the assembly without any discussions with Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, they also held Bangabandhu and the people of Bangladesh responsible for this kind of consequence. So, dear students, actually, the West Pakistani rulers were very cruel to the people of Bangladesh. They deprived the people of Bangladesh uh, of their due rights, and again, they uh, were involved in different types of conspiracies, and they treated the people of Bangladesh with utmost cruelty. And dear students, I will stop here now, and uh, very soon in my next class, I will finish the rest of the historic speech made by Bangabandhu uh, on 7 March 1971, and uh, hope you to join that class. And till then, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.